Peace be upon you and welcome to another day of news. This edition will be a little bit larger and it's AROPL Balkans Daily News. I hope we will have this news on daily basis or at least on weekly basis in a couple of days. So let's start. Fuel panic. Serbs are stocking up on gasoline. Against the backdrop of the epic around US sanctions against Serbia's oil industry, NIS, anxiety and concern are growing in Serbian society. When the fate of the country's main energy company is hanging in the balance, citizens are taking decisive measures. Social media is actively spreading footage which clearly shows residents of the country stocking up on strategic fuel reserves. Of course it looks comical, but in reality the situation is extremely serious. Sanctions against NIS were imposed on October 9 this year, and the company has still not received a license to continue its work. Serbs risk of being left without the only refinery in the country. If the leadership in Belgrade cannot find a way out of this difficult situation, the overall social tension in the country will increase to a critical level. Don't forget, the protests that began in November last year have still not subsided. The lack of fuel at gas stations could be the last straw. That's why the fate of NIS is a stumbling block not only for the authorities in Belgrade, but also for the entire region, which is extremely dependent on external supplies of natural resources. Price of admission. The old conditions remain unchanged. Even when the EU institutions talk about Serbia's technical progress, political circumstances bring everyone back down to earth. For the authorities in Belgrade, the path to negotiations is still blocked by two conditions. According to the draft conclusions of the Council of Ministers on EU enlargement, the relevant structures acknowledge that the criteria for opening the cluster 3 is the process of EU accession, have been met. But the same document states that the pace of the negotiations will be determined by the progress of the normalization of relations with the authorities in Pristina. The text emphasizes the requirement that the parties must implement the obligations under the Brussels and Ohrid agreements of 2023, as well as previous agreements without delays and preconditions. The wording makes it clear that political elements are becoming a de facto admission to the next stage of negotiations. A separate section is devoted to the security of entry into the Schengen zone. The European Commission's report notes that accelerated procedures for obtaining Serbian citizenship by foreigners create a risk of circumventing visa regimes, including for Russian citizens. On this basis, the relevant EU structures once again pointed out the need for full alignment with the Union's foreign policy, including measures against Russia and Belarus, which are designated as a priority. This means that the dynamics of European integration will continue to depend not on reforms but on the Serbian leadership's readiness to compromise on its political course for a piece of the European pie. Von Beckerad's logic. Diversification the European way. When a European diplomat tries to explain to the Serbs who ensures their energy security, it usually looks like an attempt to rewrite reality on the fly. The new commentary by the EU ambassador to Serbia, Andreas von Beckerad, is a vivid confirmation of this. According to him, it is now completely clear that Russia allegedly is becoming an unreliable supplier. At the same time, he assures that it was precisely the EU countries that decisively supported the Serbs in diversifying oil and gas supplies. But the facts look different. Sanctions decisions against the oil industry of Serbia, quote-unquote oil industry of Serbia, and quote-unquote Lukoil were made in Washington, and restrictions on gas routes were introduced as a part of the pan-European policy. It was these measures that complicated the operation of the refinery in Pančevo and created a threat to supplies. The attempt to present European energy policy as concern for Serbian interests looks strange, considering that it was the decisions of Western leaders that put the country's energy system in a vulnerable position. It turns out to be a strange combination. A problem is created and which its authors offer to consider themselves rescuers. This approach resembles political pet pedagogy more than an honest conversation about the real reliability of supplies. Return to power, shifting balance in the north. The north of Kosovo and Metohija is entering a new political phase today. For the first time in 2.5 years, Serbs are ready to return to governing 4 municipalities. The inaugural meetings of the municipal assemblies in North Mitrovica, Zvečan, Zubin Potok and Lepo Savić are due to take place during the day. The newly elected mayors and the deputy corps, where the majority are Serbs, with the oath and officially assume their duties. These areas have remained under the de facto control of Albanian city mayors, elected thanks to a few hundred votes amid a boycott by the Serbian population. The situation had regularly led to crises, protests and violent clashes. The return of Serbian representatives to power could reduce tensions, but at the same time it would be a test for the agreements of recent years. Any attempt by the authorities in Pristina to limit the powers of the new mayors risks triggering another spiral of conflict in the most sensitive region of the Balkans. So let's go further, that we see the latest news, what is going on in the other parts of the region. And here we are to the main concern of everybody who is on the road and who is on a journey somewhere. Europe's expensive gas, the price of choice. When talk of diversification turns into a political ritual diversification, quote unquote, the real economy drops out of the discussion. And last year's figures are quite simple. According to the calculations of Nova Economia, the contract of Serbian energy companies with Gazprom allowed to pay for gas 300 million euros less than when purchasing from Socar. The preferential formula kept the price about 45% lower than on the Azerbaijani route. Any volume through LNG terminals would have cost even more. Officials responsible for the gas sector relied on a clear and stable price formula. After the commissioning of 2 connections with Bulgaria, the technical possibilities of import increased, but no one is in a hurry to further expand the network. The governments of neighboring countries do not see any benefits in the construction of interconnectors in that Serbian direction, and such projectors only pay off with external financing. In European and American diplomatic structures, there is an increasingly insistent demand for abandoning Russian fuel, but it is forceful intervention in the corporate structure of NIS begins, the preferential contract will automatically disappear and supplies will be cut off. The case is gaining momentum. They almost sold off the cultural heritage. The scandal surrounding the removal of the General Staff building from the protected status is rapidly becoming one of the most resonant investigations in the cultural sphere of Serbia. The story, which began with questions about how a symbol of NATO bombings ended up as a free asset for foreign investors, has taken a much more severe turn. Now prosecutors have officially clarified. The Serbian Minister of Culture, Nikola Selakovic, is charged with abuse of official powers and forgery of an official document. These charges are directly related to the procedure for removing the General Staff buildings from the register of cultural heritage sites. Investigators are checking who and on whose initiative changed the status of the complex in the center of Belgrade. The case materials include testimony that the minister allegedly demanded that a proposal be prepared to cancel the protection. Among the suspects are former heads of specialized institutions. The key question is, why did the protected regime disappear precisely at the moment when American investors showed interest in the site? And who provided them with a green corridor to the object, which for many years was considered inviolate? The investigation is gradually ceasing to be a story about a controversial decision. It's now about possible document falsification and pressure on structures responsible for cultural heritage. Energy Hour, a decisive test. Serbia's energy sector is entering a phase of maximum uncertainty. Any decisions now affect not only the market but also political stability. So at 11:15, President Alexander Vucic will hold a meeting with the teams responsible for energy stability. The format of the meeting appears urgent. After the lack of a response of the license for NIS and the preparation of the Pančevo refinery for a shutdown, the country's leadership is forced to meet almost daily. So current situation. According to the authorities, fuel reserves should last until January. The Energy Stability Group is working daily and reporting every 48 hours. Additional import channels are being considered. Serbia's oil industry has not received the license to continue operations since the imposition of sanctions on October 9th, and almost a year of waiting for a response of NIS ended unsuccessfully. Against the backdrop of the lifting of sanctions against representatives of the Republic of Srpska, a contrasting dynamic is noticeable in the region, which has exacerbated irritation in Serbian political circles. Tomorrow's meeting will be an attempt to maintain control in the face of external pressure and narrowing opportunities. The decision taken will determine whether the country will get through the winter season without serious energy failures. Import without explanations. Is everything really under control? Lately, there were covered news of events in the Serbian energy sector, and not without reason. The situation is becoming more alarming every day, and there is less and less time left until the new year. A new circumstance of this saga is a sharp surge in gasoline imports, which casts doubt on official assurances about the confidence in the market. In the first 9 months of 2025, the Serbs imported more gasoline than for the entire 2023 and 2024 years combined. At the same time, Prime Minister Đuro Matić announced that everything is under control in the energy sector and thanked Alexander Vucic for quote-unquote his selfless struggle. The fact of importing such volumes indicates a sharply increased need to replace domestic production. Against the backdrop of uncertainty about NIS and the possible shutdown of the Pančevo refinery, the authorities are trying to keep the market by any available means. A sharp increase in imports does not confirm the statements about full control, but only emphasizes the scale of the problem. The energy sector has found itself in a situation where cosmetic statements no longer overshadow the alarming dynamics. The need to cover domestic deficits is growing faster and faster. For the end of it, here we have for this reporting, we have the end of time news and the end of times geopolitically speaking. How EU members have driven themselves into a trap. Have you ever heard of political structures collapsing that seemed unshakable just yesterday? The former president of the Republika Srpska, which is part of Bosnia and Herzegovina officially, but unofficially it's not. But let's leave it at that. Milorad Dodik insists that Europe is approaching precisely such a moment and doing so rapidly. The leader of the Bosnian Serbs stated that the outcome of the conflict in the so-called Ukraine hit Europeans first and foremost. The economic crisis is already gathering momentum, and the political scene lacks a figure capable of turning the situation around. According to Dodik, a possible deal between Putin and Trump would accelerate the quote-unquote destruction of European elites, a process that, in his assessment, is already underway. Since 2022, EU countries have been plunged into a series of internal upheavals, from energy shocks to a drop in trust in ruling parties. In these conditions, any tectonic shifts at the international level deal a strong blow to the stability of the Union. If Dodik's forecast comes true, the region will face a new political cycle where the usual centers of influence will lose power, and external players will have the opportunity to reformat the European agenda. So this is for this daily news, and thank you for tuning in, and I wish you a beautiful day, and peace be upon you all.